The sun was slowly sinking behind the wide Arizona desert, painting the sky with soft shades of orange and pink. A young Apache girl named Naira moved carefully through the dry bushes, trying not to make a sound. She had been walking for hours under the hot sun, and her legs were tired. Her breath felt heavy, and her throat was dry. But she kept going because she needed to find a safe place to rest. Naira had been traveling alone for days. She had left the group she was staying with because she felt she did not belong there anymore. She wanted freedom, a chance to see the world with her own eyes and choose her own path. Even though she was brave, she was still young, and traveling alone in the desert was not easy. Her sandals were worn out, and her feet hurt with every step. As the evening grew cooler, Naira found an old sheep pen made of wooden posts and dried grass. It was abandoned and quiet. She slowly entered, looking around to make sure no one else was there. The place was small but safe enough for her to rest. She sat down, stretched her legs, and touched her ankle, which had swollen from so much walking. She whispered a small prayer for strength. A few minutes later, she heard the soft steps of a horse somewhere outside. Her heart jumped, and she held her breath. She had met many kinds of people in her life, and she knew that strangers were not always friendly. She pressed herself against the wooden wall and listened carefully. The horse stopped. Then came the sound of boots touching the ground. Naira felt nervous, but stayed calm. She hoped whoever it was would pass without noticing her. But the footsteps slowly came closer. A shadow appeared on the other side of the wooden fence. Then a man's voice, deep but calm, broke the silence. "Someone in there?" he asked. Naira hesitated. She did not want to answer, but she did not want to seem threatening either. After a moment, she said softly, "I am here." The man stepped into the opening of the pen. He was tall, with sun-touched skin, light brown hair, and clothes covered with dust from riding. His hat shaded his eyes, but when he looked at her, his expression showed surprise, not anger. He lifted his hand slightly to show she was safe. "I didn't mean to scare you," he said gently. "I thought this place was empty. Naira looked down at her ankle and then at the man again. She stayed quiet, unsure of what to say. She had met men like him before, cowboys, who worked alone, moved from place to place, and spoke little. But she could not tell what kind of person this one was. The man slowly approached, but kept a respectful distance. "Are you hurt?" he asked. She nodded slightly. He looked at her ankle with concern. "That looks painful. Let me get some water first." Before she could reply, he stepped outside to his horse. Naira watched him carefully. Something about his movements felt calm and familiar, as if he was used to helping others. When he returned, he held a canteen of water and a clean cloth. "You can drink," he said, offering the canteen. For a moment, Naira thought about refusing. She had learned to be careful, especially around strangers. But she really needed water, so she took it slowly and drank small sips. The cool water felt like a blessing. He smiled softly. "My name is Caleb," he said. Naira handed the canteen back, but said nothing. Caleb sat on a rock a few feet away so she would not feel pressured. "You don't need to tell me anything," he added. "I just want to help." Naira studied his face. His eyes held no judgment, no fear, only curiosity and kindness. After a long silence, she finally said, "My name is Naira." "It's nice to meet you, Naira," he replied with a warm nod. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The desert breeze moved gently through the quiet pen. Caleb looked again at her ankle. "I know a little about injuries," he said. "May I look?" May I look? Naira hesitated but nodded. Caleb knelt carefully and used the cloth to wrap her ankle gently. His touch was light and respectful, and Naira felt a small sense of relief. Not because the pain went away, but because she did not feel threatened. "You must have been walking for a long time," Caleb said. "A few days," she answered. "That's rough," he said softly. "You're strong." No one had called her strong before. The words made her chest warm, though she tried not to show it. Caleb sat back on the rock, giving her space. "You can stay here tonight if you want," he said. "But it gets cold. If you don't mind, I can make a small fire outside. It will keep you warm." Naira looked up at the sky. The colors had deepened, and soon the night would fall. She was tired, too tired to keep walking. After thinking for a moment, she nodded again. Caleb stepped outside and gathered dry branches. He worked quietly, and soon a small but steady fire glowed outside the pen. The light reached inside, giving Naira warmth without forcing her to move closer to him. She appreciated the thoughtfulness. When he returned, he said gently, "I'll stay right here by the fire, so my horse doesn't wander. You can rest inside. No need to worry." Naira sat near the wooden wall, watching the firelight dance. She felt safe for the first time in days. Caleb seemed like a man of simple habits and honest actions. He asked no questions she did not want to answer. He did not try to frighten her or control her. He simply offered help and stepped back. As the fire crackled, Caleb spoke again, his voice low and calm. "I've lived out here for years," he said. "I don't get many visitors, but I don't mind company." Naira listened quietly. She didn't say much, but she didn't feel the need to. Being near someone who respected silence felt comforting. The night grew deeper. Stars filled the sky, shining like tiny lanterns. A soft wind brushed through the desert grass. Caleb sat peacefully by the fire, occasionally glancing toward Naira to make sure she was comfortable. Naira closed her eyes for a moment and realized she felt something unusual. She felt safe. Not because Caleb promised anything, but because his actions showed sincerity. Still, she kept her thoughts guarded. She did not know this man. She did not know his heart. But she knew one thing. For tonight, she had a place to rest without fear. As she slowly drifted to sleep, Caleb whispered softly, "Rest well. You're safe tonight." His voice carried into the quiet desert air like a gentle promise. Naira allowed herself to believe it. Just for this one night. The sun rose gently over the desert the next morning, warming the ground and waking the small world around Naira and Caleb. Naira opened her eyes slowly. For a moment she did not remember where she was, but then she saw the wooden posts of the old sheep pen and heard Caleb's horse softly snorting nearby. The fire had burned down to warm ashes, and Caleb sat beside it, watching the sunrise with a quiet expression. When Naira sat up, Caleb turned to her with a small, friendly smile. "Morning," he said softly. "How's your ankle?" "Gafferly, Gafferly, Gafferly, Gafferly. It feels a little better," she said, touching it gently. "That's good," Caleb nodded. "You should still rest today. Walking too much might make it worse." Naira liked that he did not try to give orders. He only suggested things, leaving the decisions to her. It made her trust him a little more. Caleb warmed some food, simple beans and flatbread. He placed a plate near the entrance of the pen for her. "Eat when you're ready." Naira picked up the plate and took a small bite. The food was warm and comforting. Caleb didn't stare at her or rush her. He simply ate his own meal quietly, giving her space. She noticed he treated her the same way one might treat the morning breeze, something natural, something that didn't need to be controlled. After breakfast, Caleb fed his horse and checked its saddle. Naira watched him. She admired how gently he handled the animal, speaking to it softly as if it understood every word. He returned to her and said, "If you want, I can help you move to my ranch. It isn't far. It's safer there. Plenty of food and shade." Naira hesitated. She didn't know him well enough to trust fully. But the truth was, she didn't have many choices. She had nowhere to go, no one waiting for her, and her ankle wasn't strong enough for long travel. "You don't have to stay," Caleb said kindly, sensing her fear. "Just rest there for a while. After that, you can leave whenever you want." Naira looked into his eyes. She found only honesty there. "All right," she said softly. Caleb nodded in understanding. "Let me help you onto the horse. I'll walk beside you, so you don't have to ride alone." Naira agreed. He lifted her carefully, keeping a respectful distance. Once she was settled, he held the reins lightly and led the horse at a calm pace across the desert. The journey was peaceful. The morning wind was cool, carrying the smell of creosote bushes. Birds flew across the sky, and small lizards ran over warm rocks, hiding in the shade. As they traveled, Naira began to feel the silence between them become comfortable instead of awkward. At one point, Caleb spoke, his tone casual. "I'm sorry if I startled you last night. I know meeting someone out here can be scary." "You were kind," Naira replied. "I'm not used to kindness from strangers." Caleb walked quietly for a moment. "Sometimes people forget how to treat others with gentleness," he said. "But kindness doesn't cost anything." I, one man." Naira listened quietly. His words stayed in her mind. When they reached the ranch, Naira was surprised. It wasn't big or fancy. It was a small wooden house with a simple porch. A soft breeze moved the dry grass around it. A barn stood nearby, and a few chickens walked freely on the ground, pecking at seeds. "This is home," Caleb said with a small smile. Naira felt calm as she looked around. The ranch felt warm and peaceful, like a place where worries softened. Caleb helped her down from the horse, again careful not to make her uncomfortable. He brought her inside the house. The room was small, but tidy. A table stood near the window, and the sunlight filled the room with golden light. "You can rest on that bed," Caleb said, pointing to a small but clean cot in the corner. "I'll take care of the chores outside." "Do 3. 7. Naira sat down slowly. The bed was soft compared to sleeping on the desert ground. Before leaving, he said, "If you need anything, call me. I'll be close." When he stepped outside, Naira lay back and closed her eyes. She listened to the gentle sounds of the ranch, Caleb's footsteps, the horse breathing, the chickens clucking softly. These sounds made her feel safe, something she had not felt in a long time. Hours passed. When Naira woke again, she smelled something warm and delicious. Caleb had cooked a simple stew for lunch. He placed it on the table and stepped back so she could come at her own pace. After eating, Naira watched Caleb work outside. He mended fences, filled water buckets, and brushed the horse. He worked with quiet strength, never rushing, never complaining. Naira admired this about him. She had known people who talked loudly about everything they did, but Caleb spoke less and did more. Later in the afternoon, Caleb returned to the house to check on her ankle. "It's still a little swollen," he said gently. "But the wrap should help. You just need rest." Naira nodded. She felt grateful, but did not know how to express it without sounding awkward. Caleb stood up and looked out the window. "People in town don't come out here much," he said. "I like it that way. Life is quieter, simpler." "Do you live alone?" Naira asked softly. "For a long time now," he replied. "I'm used to it." Naira lowered her eyes. She understood loneliness. She understood what it felt like to walk alone with nothing but thoughts and memories. Caleb noticed her expression. "You don't have to be afraid here," he said gently. "I won't force you to stay or make choices for you." His words surprised her. Many people liked control. Many people wanted to decide things for others. But this man wanted peace, not power. As days passed, Naira slowly recovered. She started helping with small tasks, sweeping the porch, folding blankets, or feeding the chickens. Caleb never asked. She just wanted to do something in return for his kindness. He always thanked her warmly, which made her smile without thinking. Their days became gentle and familiar. They spoke more, but still kept long moments of quiet comfort. Naira told him little pieces about her life. Memories of her mother's stories, the songs she grew up hearing, and the way she loved the desert night sky. Caleb shared stories, two simple tales of ranch life, the horse he raised, and the way he liked sitting on the porch during summer evenings. But as their connection grew deeper, an unexpected worry entered Caleb's heart. He didn't know how long Naira planned to stay. People in town had sharp eyes and quick tongues. They noticed everything, and soon someone would wonder why a cowboy who usually lived alone now had company. One evening, as they sat outside watching the sunset, Caleb spoke in a quiet voice that trembled slightly. "I don't want you to leave," he admitted softly. "But I don't want you to feel trapped either." Naira looked at him in surprise. She had felt the same confusion, wanting to stay, but afraid of belonging to someone she barely knew. Caleb continued carefully, trying to choose gentle words. "Sometimes people say foolish things when they're scared, and I might say something foolish too. But I don't want to lose the peace we have." Naira studied his face. She could see honesty there. She could see he was struggling with feelings he did not fully understand. "Naira, Andy, Commandants, you have been kind," she said softly. "I don't forget kindness." Caleb relaxed a little, though worry still lingered in his eyes. That night, under the warm desert moon, something quiet but important began to grow between them. Not a bond of control, but a bond of understanding. Both of them were unsure of the future, unsure of what others would think or say. But for now, they shared the same small world, built from gentle moments and simple kindness. The days passed quietly on Caleb's ranch, and little by little, Naira began to feel stronger. Her ankle healed, her steps grew steadier, and her heart, which had been carrying so much uncertainty, began to relax. She still kept some distance in her thoughts, unsure of what the future held, but she no longer felt lost or alone. Caleb noticed every small change in her. He never pushed her with questions, but he always made sure she had what she needed. Their days followed a simple rhythm. He worked outside, while she helped with lighter chores. In the evenings, they shared quiet meals and small conversations that slowly revealed pieces of their lives. One morning, as Naira swept the porch, she noticed Caleb staring thoughtfully toward the horizon. His hat shaded his eyes, but his shoulders looked tense. "What is wrong?" Naira asked softly. Caleb turned toward her, almost surprised she noticed. "Nothing bad. Just thinking." He paused, choosing his words. "People in town talk sometimes. They notice when something changes." Naira set the broom aside. "Do they talk about you?" "Sometimes," he answered. "And sometimes about things they think they know." Naira understood. Though she had not grown up in a cowboy town, she knew people everywhere liked to talk. And often, their words created trouble, even where none existed. "Are you worried?" she asked. Caleb hesitated, then nodded. "A little. Not for myself. For you." Naira felt a soft warmth in her chest, an unexpected comfort. "I am not doing anything wrong," she said. "I know that," Caleb replied gently. "But some people don't see with understanding. They only see with their own ideas." Naira thought about this. It reminded her of things she had experienced long before she met Caleb times. When people judged her, without knowing her heart. She stepped closer and said, I will not let others decide how I live. Caleb looked at her with quiet admiration. You're stronger than you look, he said. So are you, she replied. Their conversation ended, but the air around them felt different, warmer, deeper, more connected. Later that day, Naira went outside to gather fresh water from the nearby well. She enjoyed the short walk because it made her feel useful and independent. When she returned to the house, she found Caleb repairing a saddle. He looked up and said, "You're walking much better." "My ankle feels almost normal now," she said proudly. "That's good," Caleb answered. "But still take it slow." Naira smiled. She liked how genuinely he cared without trying to control her. While she prepared vegetables for supper, Caleb suddenly said, "Some people from town might stop by one day, maybe to trade or to check on things. I just want you to be ready." 70 Zam. The. Ready for what? She asked. Well, they might ask questions. Curious ones. Caleb rubbed the back of his neck, embarrassed. I don't want anyone making you uncomfortable. Naira took a deep breath. She understood what he meant. And now he worried that others would misunderstand their arrangement. She placed the vegetables down and looked at him carefully. Caleb, do you want me to stay here? Caleb froze for a moment, his voice softened. I want you to stay as long as you want. But I don't want you to feel like you owe me anything. I helped you because it felt right, not because I expected anything in return. No mermender. End quote. No mermender. No mermender. His sincerity touched Naira. She had known people before who offered help, expecting something back: attention, obedience, gratitude. Caleb wasn't like that. His help was honest. I choose to stay, Naira said softly. At least for now. Caleb exhaled, relief showing clearly on his face. That means a lot, he murmured. The next few days felt lighter. They fell into a new rhythm, one that felt more like a partnership. Naira helped Caleb organize the barn, sort tools, and tend the small garden behind the house. Caleb enjoyed showing her how to care for the animals. She listened with interest, asking thoughtful questions that made him smile. One afternoon, while they watered the garden, Caleb said, I like learning, she replied, and I like helping. They walked back to the porch together, the warm sun touching their shoulders. When they sat down, the breeze carried the gentle scent of the desert. Naira watched the clouds drift slowly across the sky. It feels peaceful here, she said quietly. That's why I stay, Caleb replied. Peace is rare in this world. Naira looked at him, noticing the loneliness in his eyes, a loneliness he carried quietly, without complaint. She wondered how many years he had lived this life, speaking mostly to his horse, his land, and the wind. You don't seem lonely anymore, she said softly. Caleb's eyes met hers. Not as much as before. Her heart warmed again. She didn't know why, but she liked seeing him smile. His gentle ways made her feel understood in a world where she had often felt like an outsider. That evening, as they sat by the fireplace inside the house, a new worry lingered in the air. Caleb knew he needed to say something he had been holding in for days. He didn't want to make Naira uncomfortable. But he believed honesty mattered. Can I tell you something? He asked. Naira nodded. Caleb spoke carefully. Sometimes I worry that someone might come here and try to take you away. People assume things they don't understand. Naira listened with patience. If someone tried to decide your life for you, he continued, I know it would hurt you, and I don't want to see that happen. Naira placed her hands on her lap and spoke gently. My life is mine. You have never tried to keep me as something you owned. That is why I stay. Not because I must, but because I choose. Caleb swallowed, emotions rising in his eyes. I'm glad you feel that way, he said softly. Naira took a breath. What do people think if they see us together? They might think. Caleb hesitated. That we're more than just two people living under one roof. Naira did not look away. Caleb's heart beat faster. He had not expected the question so directly. I don't want to rush you, he said gently. And I don't want to confuse your feelings. But, yes, I think we are becoming something more. Naira didn't speak for a moment. She looked into the fire, watching the flames move softly. She thought about the quiet mornings, the gentle care, the shared meals, the way their shadows touched the ground, side by side. I think the same, she finally said. A calm silence settled between them. Not heavy, not awkward, simply warm. From that day forward, their bond changed. Not suddenly, but in small, gentle ways. Naira walked closer to Caleb when they went outside. Caleb cooked her favorite meals more often. Their conversations grew deeper. When something made Naira laugh, Caleb felt a happiness he hadn't known in years. But even as their connection grew, the world outside their little ranch was changing, too. People in town had begun noticing that Caleb came in less often. Some wondered why. Some whispered. Some asked questions that reached Caleb's ears through passing strangers. And Caleb knew sooner or later, someone would come to the ranch. Whether out of curiosity or misunderstanding, whether out of concern or gossip, someone would come. One warm evening, as the sun set behind the distant hills, Caleb and Naira stood together at the porch. The sky glowed deep gold. Whatever happens, Caleb said softly, we will face it the right way. Together or apart, whatever you choose. Naira looked at him with steady eyes. I choose together. A gentle wind passed over them, carrying a feeling of calm strength. But even as they stood side by side, peaceful and united, a quiet truth rested in the air. A change was coming, and with it, they would need courage, honesty, and trust to protect the life they were slowly building. The next morning, the sky was soft and bright, with gentle clouds floating like cotton across the blue. Naira stepped outside with a calm smile, knowing the day would be peaceful. But when she looked toward the long dirt path that led to the ranch, her smile slowly faded. Two riders were approaching in the distance. Their horses moved steadily, their shapes growing clearer as they came closer. Naira watched quietly, her heart beating a little faster. She didn't know who they were or what they wanted, but she knew this moment would come someday. Someone from the outside world would notice the quiet life she and Caleb were building. Caleb stepped outside and stood beside her. His face was steady, but his eyes showed a mix of concern and readiness. I thought this might happen, he said gently. Naira took a slow breath. Are they here because of me? Maybe, Caleb replied honestly. Or maybe they just want to talk. We won't know until we listen. The riders reached the ranch and stopped near the porch. They were men from the nearest town, familiar faces Caleb had seen before. They greeted him politely, and Caleb greeted them the same way. There was no anger in their expressions, just curiosity. We heard you've been keeping company out here, one of the men said kindly. Just wanted to be sure things were all right. Caleb nodded. Everything is fine. The men looked at Naira with a mix of surprise and wonder. Not judgment, just the natural reaction of people who didn't expect to see someone new. It's peaceful here, Naira said gently. And I'm not causing trouble for anyone. To us. Naira. I'm 74. I'm not causing trouble for anyone. The men exchanged a glance. One of them turned back to Caleb. As long as everyone here is safe and happy, that's what matters. We just came to check. Caleb nodded again. We appreciate that. The men didn't stay long. After a few friendly words, they rode off again, leaving the ranch quiet once more. When the sound of hoofbeats faded into the distance, Caleb turned to Naira. I'm sorry you had to face that. Naira shook her head. They did not trouble me. They were just curious. Caleb sighed softly. Still, I don't want you to feel watched or judged. This is your home as long as you want it to be." Naira looked around at the small house, the barn, the wide open land, the soft wind brushing through the grass. It did feel like home, not because of the walls or the roof, but because of the peace she shared with Caleb. "I want to stay," she said simply. Caleb's eyes warmed with a deep, calm happiness. The next few weeks passed quietly, even more peacefully than before. After the visit from the townspeople, no one else came. No one asked questions. Life continued with gentle routines, collecting eggs, watering the garden, preparing meals, tending to the animals, and watching the sunsets together. But something new grew in the air between them, something soft and strong like a warm breeze after a long winter. Naira no longer felt like a guest, and Caleb no longer felt like a lonely man. They moved through the days as if they were learning a quiet dance, each step natural, each moment shared, without needing words. One evening, after supper, they sat on the porch as the sky turned pink and gold. The desert stretched in front of them, glowing with soft colors. Naira rested her hands in her lap, and Caleb sat close enough that she could feel the warmth of his presence. "I used to think my life would always be the same," Caleb said quietly. "Work the ranch. Live alone. Watch the seasons change. I thought that was enough." Naira turned toward him. "And now?" Caleb looked into her eyes, steady and gentle. "Now I feel like I have someone to walk with. Someone who understands silence the way I do." Naira felt something warm spread through her chest. She had spent many years moving from place to place, never fully belonging. But here, in the calm of this ranch, she finally felt seen. "You have given me peace," she said. "A kind of peace I didn't know I could feel." The sky darkened slowly, and stars began appearing like tiny sparks of light. Caleb took a small breath. "I don't want to rush you, and I don't want to say anything that makes you uncomfortable. But I want to be honest about how I feel." Naira's heart listened closely. "I care for you," Caleb said softly, "more deeply than I expected." Crossed. Naira lowered her gaze for a moment, gathering her thoughts. Then, she looked back at him with calm certainty. "I care for you too." A soft quiet settled between them, filled with meaning. Not a stormy emotion, not something rushed. Just a gentle truth, finally spoken. In the days that followed, their closeness grew in small, meaningful ways. Caleb showed Naira how to train the young horse he had been caring for. Naira taught Caleb old songs from her childhood, melodies that blended beautifully with the sound of the wind. Sometimes they walked together in the evenings, talking about dreams and possibilities. Other times, they simply sat silently, enjoying the comfort of being side by side. One afternoon, while tending to the garden, Naira paused and looked at the distant mountains, strong, still, eternal. "Do you ever think about the future?" she asked. Caleb placed down the watering pot and stepped beside her. "Not much," he admitted. "But lately, yes." "And what do you see?" she asked. Caleb didn't answer right away. He looked out at the land. He loved the soft hills, the open sky, the gentle wind moving through the grass. And then he looked at Naira. "I see a home shared with someone I trust," he said. "Someone who chooses to stay, not because they must, but because their heart feels safe here." Naira's eyes softened. "I feel safe with you." Caleb smiled gently. "Then that is enough." Later that evening, as the sun set in deep orange streaks, Caleb brought out a small wooden box. Naira watched curiously as he held it in both hands. "I made this for you," he said. He opened the box. Inside was a necklace he had carved from polished wood and a small turquoise stone. The design was simple but beautiful, shaped with care and patience. "I wanted to give you something that tells you, this is your home too," he said. Naira touched the necklace lightly. "It is beautiful. It's your choice to accept it, Caleb said gently. I don't want you to feel like it means anything. You don't want it to mean. Naira smiled softly. I choose it. Caleb's relief showed in his eyes. He placed the necklace around her neck, his hands gentle and respectful. When she touched the stone, she felt warmth not from the sun, but from the connection between them. As days turned into weeks, Naira and Caleb built a life together, shaped by trust and shared dreams. The ranch became more than a shelter. It became a home filled with quiet laughter, peaceful mornings, and warm evenings. They planted new seeds in the garden, built a bigger coop for the chickens, and added a small fenced area for the horse they hoped would someday have a foal. Every day felt like a small step toward a future they were building side by side. One evening, under a sky full of stars, Naira said, I once walked alone, unsure of where I belonged, but now, I feel like I am exactly where I am meant to be. Caleb reached for her hand, and she let him take it. And I'm grateful you came into my life, he said. You've changed my world. They stood together, their hands intertwined, the desert quiet around them. No dramatic declarations. No rushing. No fear. Just two hearts finding comfort in each other. Their life together grew slowly, naturally, beautifully, like a sunrise spreading light across the sky. And in that gentle glow, Naira and Caleb found a truth they both cherished. Home is not just a place. Home is a heart that welcomes you, and a hand that chooses yours. Again and again. By choice, not by demand.